Hey mofos, so welcome to episode 95 of Masters of the Forge. This episode is very interesting. About a week and a half ago, we received word from the Warhammer community team that we would be receiving some packages with some goodies in them so that we could preview the content for you. We kvetched and waited and sweated for a good week until it finally showed up on Thursday. But oddly enough, it only showed up at my house. It did not show up at Jason's house for some reason. I guess they just sent one per show. So, what we had planned was a big show where we have some great talk about the new content and our impressions on early games, to give you a heads up on the way we would do narrative gaming coming forward. But that's impossible to do with only one of us receiving said content. So I did manage to, with the help of my friend Pat, starting on Thursday, we assembled the miniatures and played a few games and then recorded a segment. I debated with the concept of just ditching the show entirely, but there are two things. One, I had promised on Facebook that this would be coming earlier this week. And two, I am not the kind of person that finds it easy to throw away 2 to 3 days of work, especially when I've done so to exhaustion. So just keep the caveat in mind that this should have been a much bigger show, but unfortunately not all of us were included in the preview content. So please enjoy this one segment that we have, and hopefully we'll be back sometime in early July for our roundtable discussion with a few of our friends in the podcasting community. Thanks and enjoy. Welcome back. So segment 2 of this week's podcast, I have my buddy Pat. Hi, Pat.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Great. I mean, we've been hanging out for it's 8 hours already today. So and I'm just like, hello, Pat, as if that's totally natural.
That's right.
So Pat, I think your gaming pedigree is actually it's very apt for the conversation. So, you've been playing as long as I have, which is since 2010.
Yeah, since it's 7 years, but yeah. I also have been off kind of for about an edition.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, let's just lay it on the table. You're a Chaos player.
I play Chaos.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
I play Nurgle. I play mostly exclusively Nurgle since very early on.
Yeah, pretty much exclusively. I mean, even when you're playing even when you're trying to find yourself a competitive niche, you're like, yeah, I'm going to be playing this Space Marine Bike Army, which is made entirely of Nurgle models.
Yes, I spent a lot of money on aftermarket Nurgle bike guys. So
your Imperial Guard army is
Nurgle,
enormous and entirely Nurgle. Yes. So yeah, let's just so that now that you have that context, I guess you can understand why I think it's safe to say that this new box set is right up your alley, right?
I was a little nervous with the last Dark Vengeance. They went spiky chaos. Everything has to be angular and dark and gritty.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are goofy and putrid and round, and it tickles all my Nurgly fancies.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we were looking at the models and just those I already forgot what they're called, but the little plague guys.
The Poxwalkers.
The Poxwalkers, dude, those guys are amazing. Like, just the expressions on their faces, every detail. Like, the one dude with the weird long coat.
Yeah, they're goofy looking,
but still with that
detail.
sharp detail that you expect.
GW does things in plastic that I only see normally in high-end resins. I mean, they can just make a plastic model, and they make it. The guy in the long coat, the front quarter of his coat, the coat tails, are attached to his face.
And you glue the face and the coat. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And it's just like
how they do it.
They're really smart. I mean,
yeah,
that's their bread and butter. They're good at it.
Yeah, and I think the Plague Marines are pretty cool, but there were missing some guns and stuff, right?
Well, they didn't include the Plague Marines get a new type of gun, the Plague Spitter or something,
right?
A bio launcher or something,
right?
But they didn't include it in the starting 7 models.
Right, so that's cool that it was a unit of 7.
Oh yeah, guys. no. I mean, even when I played, I tried to do.
Yeah, you always played.
I've always
7
run
guys.
7 guys.
Yeah.
Because it just feels right.
It is right. That is what's right, and so yeah, those models are just amazing. That Plague Drone is so rad.
The Fetid Plague Drone.
Yeah.
The fact is that it's using the dangling bits as its own support, and it doesn't feel chintzy.
Yeah.
Where it feels like, I mean, I wouldn't want to put my hand on it, but it definitely is not going to just.
You probably
bend.
wouldn't want to do that in resin either.
No, I wouldn't want to do it on one of those flight stands. I mean,
no.
That's as good as a flight stand, and it looks good. And
yeah.
It makes me think if I make some, I might have something. Aftermarket. If I'm trying to do a custom job, I might just do dangly bits on all my.
Yeah, we can do something similar to what we did with the Nurgle Imperial Knight, right?
Yeah.
Something like we did there with the tentacle maker.
Tentacles, yeah.
The tentacle maker is great.
That's a cool design. It's and I like it. I can do that and make it support.
The Space Marines are cool. It's hard to gush about Space Marines because they're so simple and so. But at the same time, you do get the same sharp detail. You get the same those jump guys are rad.
The jump guys are awesome. They got
they're so cool.
The boots, the extra the shock absorbing boots.
Yeah.
They're so thick. They're it's like, man, what happens if Terminator armor flies and you're like, oh, this is what it looks like.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, they're really cool. So, and the proportions and everything are exactly what people have been asking for.
I mean, you could panel paint a Space Marine on its arms, you can your old BattleTech models. You can go just and get that detail in there.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be some very ingenious hobbyists out there who are probably gonna be putting some free hand on these new Marines and just doing some crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, you have so much room, but they didn't go nuts with the shoulders. They didn't go nuts with the backpack. Mm-hmm. They stayed proportional, and everything looks good, dude.
Yeah, everything looks really the heads are the right size.
Yeah,
the hands are the right size. They're almost not hero scale.
The guns are ridiculous, but that's what you want. In the bolter, you want a gun that's,
Yep.
as thick as your waist.
Yep. And and I gotta say, thanks to GW for supplying this stuff to us. They sent us not only the box set, which we were able to play with, but all the indexes. So we were able to actually play a game with a full game with your chaos and my orcs. So let's segue that into our first game, which was using the Dark Imperium box set. So we spent all day yesterday building models.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice to hobby together again.
Yeah, I've been out of the hobby game for, besides 1 or 2 models for another something, but yeah, putting together 20 models in a sitting. It's been a while.
Yeah, our feet were very not good, and you stabbed yourself so many times.
I put a new razor blade on that X-Acto knife, and it just to the bone a couple times.
Listen to that, mofos. Listen, the man shed blood for you. Isn't that nice?
I care. I care.
So we built those models, and they were great to put together. Like, it wasn't like all the numbers are sequential. The instructions are really helpful. You pointed out that they actually showed you the best place to glue the model
feet to make the model look. Yeah, so it's kind of centered. It's because how many times did you, like when you first started putting models, did you put a guy down and you're looking at it and you put him too far front? And then he's just like leaning weird,
leaning forward with like a cloak or something billowing out and a sword outstretched, and he's on the edge. Yeah, it was great. And the flight bases, it showed that was a really good one because they're the new weird ones, so that it's all
the new flight base design. If that's the curve pattern, so it's not that direct spike down.
Yeah, it looks a lot more natural. And it's really nice. I can't wait. I hope they all do that.
There's no reason you can't like make that like a smoke trail or something else if you wanted to hide it.
Yeah, if you really wanted it, but there's less of a need to hide that.
It's also out of the way, so you can put your basing basing around it, and it's not like with that peg. All the jump troops, they look silly because they got that peg because that eventually gets broken off and becomes a golf tee. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well,
in the middle,
I would love to if they sell them separately, I would buy them for my Seraphim right now, for my Sisters of Battle Seraphim.
Yeah,
because they're so terrible. It's like a hunk of metal attached to the ground. But at least I have like autumn leaves glued to it, so it looks like it's all.
Yeah, but the old metal models are tough because the weight.
It's so hard. Yeah,
I mean,
so
we played Gothic. We know what it's like to try to
try
to put a metal. I mean, they had like the plague, the typhus's ship was probably like 5 pounds of metal, and they like, here's one flight base that's gonna hold it upright.
You had like three like spikes stuck into the bottom of that thing. I don't know how many times I had an orc cruiser and it broke, and I'm like, okay, and I actually I would take a lighter, melt the end of it, and smush it into the hole.
They just get shorter. That's all.
It just keep getting shorter. Yeah. So yeah, that first game we played the patrolman. We decided to go with a narrative mission. At first we were thinking we were going to do 3 games, but the fact that we're learning the game, they're taking a little bit longer than we thought.
We went back to so many old rules, like just power weapon. And then we realized we needed to take it a little slower. And the narrative is fun, and
yeah, it was a really cool game. The patrol is actually the first. Like, they give you like a tree campaign in the back, and patrol is the first mission that you play, and then it like breaks down into who won and who lost, and it depends. What next mission depends on who won and lost that first one, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's great for a 3-game narrative if you want to just spend an afternoon gaming with a friend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
I mean,
I'll do that all day.
Especially seeing the way we've moved on to like, playing Kingdom Death as a board game.
Yeah.
With these games where there's this sequential thing and you do this one. And I love the idea of playing a grand campaign, but no one has the time, right?
No.
Or wants to do the paperwork.
No.
But if you can just feel like you get something out of 3 missions.
And you feel like you've kind of told a story, and it's the 3-game campaign is a concept that's been in like the podcast verse for a while, and the fact that they have like a nice tree one with a bunch of missions already figured out in the rule book, that is so amazing, and they've been listening, I think.
Well, yes.
I love that these narrative missions, they have different roles in each of the missions, and you're either the attacker or the defender depending on who has the power level advantage. And that was really cool, where it set you up as I think it was less points.
I had just under, 40, 50 points less with the base stuff out of the box.
Yeah. I had 51. You had like 46 power level.
Yeah.
And so you were the defender, and you had some mild advantages on your side.
Because I had more CP. Wow, is that important? Especially in a small game.
Yeah, so it was really cool, and each of us had different stratagems available to us.
Yes, besides the base ones, yeah.
Right. So since I had more points, since I had more power level, so the mission was you set up 3 units on both sides, and everything else comes in reserve. since I had more points, all mine arrived on a 4+, all yours arrived on a 3+.
Yes.
But the stratagems let us mess with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, one of mine was I could spend 2 points, 2 command points, and bring my guys, all the guys that come in on any board edge.
Yes, and
yours, the one you used, what made me
added 2. I could have spent 1 command point and added 1 to your roll.
Yep.
But or I could spend 2 to add 2, and you had left your Hellcasters.
Yeah, the guys with the
plasma. The Primaris Marines with 5 plasma guns, 30-inch plasma guns. We could talk about 30-inch plasma guns for a while. But,
yeah. Well, they could show up 15 inches away and still double tap.
Yes,
which is gross.
But as a guy who loves plasma, I love to see 5 plasma guns, and I'm like, I need to spend these. And because I had 3 troops, I was able to get 3 more command points than you.
Yeah.
I was able to say, I'm going to spend 2 here, and you didn't get them in that turn.
Yeah. I didn't even bother because I would have like, okay, I was gonna use that one, bring them in,
put
on
them right
all
next
sides.
to me, like it would have been.
But you denied me that,
and that was that's good because I needed some time to work on you.
Absolutely, yeah. You softened me up, and that was a really, really fun game. Oh, we also used one of the battle zones.
Did we ever use a battle zone?
Fire and Fury. So we were thinking, okay, for this narrative, we just arrived on the planet, and both of our ships are breaking up in orbit. And stuff is falling out
orbital,
of the sky.
The rest of our fleets are fighting up there. We're on the debris fields of. And that was a great and terrible choice.
It was so great.
But as a guy, yes, but it's the kind of game I like where
Yeah. So what was it? All of the terrain was like basically dangerous terrain. You moved half through it.
Moved half, and it did mortal wounds if you started on it. Like
if you roll a 1.
Like a difficult terrain check, you got mortal wounds.
That was interesting, and we braved it too. Like we were like, you know what? It's tactically sound, and plus you had
mortal wounds is a great thing for a Death Guard player because you just don't have you get something, and your orcs would have been like if you had your just having anybody that can get that save on those.
Yeah.
And in a field like that, it's like I had a great advantage.
Yeah. The what is it called? Disgustingly resilient.
Disgustingly resilient. Yeah, it's a 5/6. Ignore a wound. So it's not like you're getting a save. It's just it's
just ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And we also had an orbital bombardment mechanic. And it's not like the old school like lazy orbital bombardment mechanic. It's
literally chunks of debris falling in where you could spend command points to make it so you can do 6 locations.
Yeah.
But you could pick 3 locations with a die labeled 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And then roll a die, another D6, and whatever number shows up, a chunk of a meteorite falls into place, and so it just has a good splash damage of 6.
Oh yeah, it's like 6. It was
6 inches,
doing D3 mortal wounds to every unit.
Yeah, and we were happened to be able to game it sometimes. I had 3 dice on your units. I got lucky with 2 in the beginning, and
my commander got chased by one of those.
He got hit twice.
He got hit twice. That was amazing.
Materials falling out of the sky. Hit the poor guy twice. Which is good because nobody likes him anyways.
No, he's a freaking space marine, and a non-Primaris space marine at that. Screw that guy.
He's got that sweet new armor though.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Well, he's got the fist with the bolt gun at the top.
That model is so rad.
It's so clean. I just can't wait to take it and just put holes in it and add tentacles and make it nurgly.
So, how cool were those Space Marine lieutenants?
I
was not expecting much out of those guys until I started playing with them.
I knew they were characters, and but then you said 5 wounds. I said, what?
4 attacks.
4 attacks. One guy had a sword. One guy was just shooting. Right.
It was it was an assault bolter.
Yeah.
Fast freak. He can run. That means he can advance and shoot it at a -1 to hit. So he can just run around shooting.
Yeah, and he was conferring the +1 on you to
No, that
was the banner.
The ancient, the Primaris ancient. But the lieutenants that they had a 2+ to hit in close combat and a 3+ to hit for shooting. Yeah. I feel like the lieutenants are very much the represent like in the novels. The guy
who's just a little bit more the one.
Yeah, he's like normal Space Marine guy, but the way things happen, he's usually not normal Space Marine guy.
Played the video game Space Marine. It's like, everybody else dies except for the guy. He survives it all the way to the end. Yeah,
that's these guys. That's really cool.
And I can't. Being a starter set, I get that there's not full rules because they don't have a codex yet. But I want to know how you can get in there and fidget with them, and like if they're gonna have more options for the fit. Because
those lieutenants and some of the some of your plague guys, it would be really nice to see to get a little bit more character out of these guys.
But I mean, the lieutenants, it's a cool concept because you got 2 in a unit, but then they separate it.
Yep.
So separate. So that they were just you didn't have that. They weren't filling up 2 slots and they were elites, right?
They were an elite. No, those were an HQ choice.
They were an HQ choice, yeah.
But 2 guys equals 1 HQ choice.
You know what? Now I'm thinking about it. Heralds. Demonic Heralds.
Yeah.
They're the Imperial version of Demonic Heralds.
And all of my big guns and mech guns do the same thing. You buy 5, and then they become not only 5 separate units, but 10 separate units, because the Gretchen crew are separate, too.
That's terrifying.
But so it makes me wonder, like, the way we played it for the kill points was the 2 guys counted as 1 kill point. But I don't know. I think we're gonna need some confirmation on that, or a little bit more research in the wording of the rules.
I mean, the rule says unit.
Yeah.
And they're a unit, and we have to look at the splitting rule. They're how it's written is really the GW's.
They changed it. They changed it because they usually they say, okay, these guys count as separate units, but it was like, this is a unit, and when you deploy them, they separate. Yeah. So I think you do have to kill all of them, but it's somewhat up for interpretation, I think.
And that's the best part about this game is there's still a lot and
lot to learn, lot to find out. So I love those stratagems. How each of those narrative missions has distinct stratagems.
Well, the first one, I was also very kind of gun shy on stratagems. I didn't want to spend my command points because what if I need it elsewhere? Whereas the second game, I was out by turn 3.
Yeah.
But I felt that they helped me in every time.
Yeah.
And command points, like I hope that again, I want to see more like
narrative, like
an army specific stratagem that maybe it's like some kind of weird regroup thing that your guys would do, like Nurgle, like everybody gets a weird shroud and makes for 1 turn or something.
You act as if you're in terrain or something. Yeah. I think they will. I think once we start seeing in actual full codexes, I really do think we're going to get awesome stratagems
to do
for
things
these
like
armies.
Weird, even acting as weird war gear, like orbital bombardments. You could like how you used to be able to buy those in Cities of Death.
Oh, like maybe like Death Guard, you could apply some weird contagion poison.
Yeah, you sweep a poison across the battlefield.
Yeah,
and you just everybody, you split the battlefield in quadrants or thirds, and this first 2 feet has a poison gas, and it just moves across into like a pattern.
That would be super cool.
But you can avoid it by trying to run away from it or something. Like it only moves 2, and just there's room to grow, and that's kind of
there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for more stuff, and I think we have a lot. We haven't seen everything, that's for sure.
Yeah, just seeing what those Primaris Marines. Again, I made fun of them. They're Marines. They got my Marine. Ludacris is coming out and he's got his Marine up in his Marine. They're double point Marines. They're extra Marine-y.
They're super Marine-y.
Dude,
those lieutenants are ultra Marine-y. Ultra Marine-y. I hate myself so much.
You should. But that's for many reasons. But the thing is, 2 wounds, it's not it seems ridiculous until, Power Fists, we're getting a chance to double them out. And the fact is that you have to wound a model, then take them off. They weren't sticking around. You couldn't play shenanigans.
It made it so much faster. Not shenanigans made it so much faster.
Oh, if it was shenanigans, I probably would have just walked out halfway through.
Yeah.
But like,
the auras are great too, because the model removal is so important. And now that you have these auras, don't have to be enormous. I was looking at some of my auras, and I'm like, that's kind of small. But when you think about it, when you're removing models and stuff, you can keep guys in the aura. It doesn't matter. You pull a guy outside the aura if you need to keep your aura, right?
Yeah. The Plague Marine, the Death Guard seemed to be aura heavy. I had the Contagion Lord has a crazy thing that does a mortal wound if someone in melee within an inch. And that's super powerful, but I kept him within 7 inches of 3 to 4 models while he's still doing his I got a giant plague sword thing. So it's not impossible. It's just that you have to think about it. Whereas in our second game, I kind of lost track of that because my Lord got separated. And I really could have used that reroll once for the end where I was getting a little flabbergasted at how badly a man could roll. But
yeah, well, let's talk about that. We played we decided to speed things up instead of doing a narrative mission. We'll have plenty of time to do those later.
We decided to pick up interested though. That that was fun because it was different.
Those.
Like it feels good.
I feel like the more campaign books they release, we're gonna get more stuff like that, and I would love to see the next group of campaign books add more to those 3-game campaigns. So we played Eternal War Secure and Control. That's the one that's like Emperor's Will. It's got 2 objectives inside each of our deployment zones. You deploy the alternating deployment. This is the first, because in the previous mission it was just 3 units reserves. This was the alternating.
We
deployment.
used to have all right. That was
4th edition, I think. 4th edition, and it was good. It was a lot of fun. I could see where some narrative missions where you're like, okay, but in this one everybody's set up, and then everybody else on the other side moves on. But for a 1 versus 1 like competitive game or matched play game, it makes sense to do the 1-in-1 deployment.
And it was cool that how that mattered. So if I wanted to try to get in this mission, whoever deployed stopped deploying first got to decide to either he wanted to go first or second, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's with all of them, but I could have put 2 of my other characters in a Rhino and gotten it. Like I could have made that commitment.
Because putting stuff in transports counts as 1 drop.
Yes, I could have done that and tried to steal it, but seeing your orcs and your entire thing was based on rushing me.
Yeah,
I assumed that I want second anyway. So
right, yeah. Okay. Now that you mention that, I should probably mention like kind of what the lists look like. I decided to take. I wanted to take a list I loved playing back in 5th edition, loved it, and I kind of couldn't, going to events and in kind of an open play situation, they didn't do very well after 6th edition. I took a battle wagon full of boys, and in there I put a war boss and Mad Doc. Mad Doc's an elite now, which is interesting.
Oh, really?
He's really good. He has a 6-up mitigation after save, and then another 5-up mitigation after save. And he's super resilient now.
And that's something we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we got to talk about the mitigation
after saves and how
there's so much
multi-wound models and multi-damage single hits, and you save, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I have a note for that. We definitely have to talk about that. Yeah. I also brought a squad of knobs in a battle wagon, just regular knobs.
I haven't seen regular knobs in a long time.
No, remember we used to set up in Vanguard Strike, table corners deployment, and you would just watch somebody deploy something 24 inches up the board, and I'd be like, yeah, these knobs are in reserve because they're gonna come on 12 inches, jump out, and assault you.
Yeah.
Your entire army, and you're gonna die.
Yeah, you have to do that. The thing is, people don't.
So we did that. So they were good. They were great. They weren't impossible though. I also brought 2 squads of Gretchen for holding back objectives, and I brought a squad of shooter boys in a truck because I wanted to try it out. and we'll talk about why in a minute. And I brought a Death Dread because Death Dreads are awesome. And I brought a big mech with a power claw and a custom force field.
Yeah.
What did you have, buddy?
I love Nurgle, right? So
you brought a lot of your painted models, which was good.
Well, I brought models I like to. I love Plague Marines. The versatility of the Feel No Pain, even before, it's now when it. I love Feel No Pain. I think it's a great way, and I love Plasma.
Yeah.
So I've got my 2 squads of 7.
Well, listeners, this man put all plasma in his units way before plasma got great again.
All my IG army is literally full of plasma, and chimeras would just smell of cooked chaos trooper, and just it must have been a beautiful sight. So I took 3 squads of Plague Marines for points because we played 1500 trying to.
Yeah.
We're
doing a super matched play for our second.
And we didn't, 2000 can get that much longer, so it's 1500 was a reasonable amount of time to try something because we're going to be in those looking at things a lot, referencing
up a lot of stuff.
So 3 squads of Plague Marines, most were 7. They have got some sword, a power sword, a couple fists, but two squads had plasma, one had Melta, because I always like to pop vehicles every once in a while. And a Chaos Lord, playing Chaos, you're used to giving him Mark of Nurgle and he gets tougher. Well, that's not really how it works anymore. So I was kind of...
It's like each unit has all the abilities.
Well, it's that they don't have... That doesn't change. I don't know how to... Maybe I got to look at it a little bit more, but... The Chaos Lord is fun. He's still a good unit. He's got some great powers.
We want
my
him
troops.
to be more Nurgly.
But that's why there's a whole Death Guard unit. I didn't purposely take those because I wanted to see Chaos, base Chaos things, and he worked fine. He was fine. But he's not terrible. Just a dude with a fist and a combi plasma because combis are awesome.
Yeah.
And
I think you bring up a good point here, real quick, because some folks are. There's a little kvetching that. They said, well, there was supposed to be special abilities if you went all one keyword, one faction. And it's well, it's all built into the units. You don't need a special rule in a codex telling you get a bonus for head go. Because in Age of Sigmar, you get special bonuses if all your stuff is Seraphon. Or all your stuff is dwarves or whatever. But you don't need that if you look at the way the keywords work together. You don't get synergies if you don't have keywords. Yeah, no. I mean, the Chaos Lord helped all my other guys. He let them anybody who says chaos, he gets the chaos stuff.
He lets them re-roll ones to hit.
And that came up quite a bit, actually.
Quite a bit. Yeah. It's surprisingly how...
The Nurgle guy would have been different.
He would have been different. He wouldn't have had that. He would have had Feel No Pain. And everybody loves Feel. Again, I love Feel No or Disgustingly Resilient. Yes. I love it. And so, but the Lord's great. I can't wait to throw him on a bike. Next time he's going to be on a bike for maneuverability. Mm-hmm. A sorcerer, good old Chaos Sorcerer.
Those guys are really good too.
Well, the
powers...
extra
mortal wound after doing mortal wounds, he casts smite, and then he's by the way, you also take another mortal wound.
If you're within 7 inches of his bubble, it happened to give out a couple, so I was only smiting for one and getting a bad roll, but it was enough to pop a knob. Very cool. Yeah, and cool. And the psychic powers, you don't have a lot of choices. You got 3. I don't know if that's been talked about, but 3 plus smite. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. Every power...
It certainly makes it easier to balance them.
It does. You
don't have one that's really good for one situation. You're And it lets you choose instead of roll, which is nice. Yeah,
I ended up rolling because I thought all 3 were valid, so I just wanted the randomness because I play Chaos. I play Chaos. I want random.
Nothing wrong with that.
But he's cool. Nothing fancy about him. Mm-hmm. I had a couple rhinos to drive a couple of the squads around, and I have...
Your rhinos are so good.
I made a Warpsmith. I got a nice Warpsmith.
He's so
Warpsmith's
cool.
fun because I have problems. I own 8 Hellbrutes.
Yes, that's not a problem. That's a solution.
Well, it's gotten much better, and I decided to have that Warp Smith hang out with a couple of my Hellbrutes.
Yep.
And I could feel to put 2 Chaos Hellbrutes down and not feel shame.
Yeah. Yeah. They did some work too.
Well, surprisingly, yeah, and it's very interesting, and I that alone makes me excited about the addition.
Dude, having my Death Dread out there, like, yeah, you did kill it on your first turn, but it soaked so much.
You brought
it down with a bolter.
I did bring it down with a bolter from yes.
But it took concentrated shooting.
I also have obliterators. I'm a huge obliterator fan.
Yeah.
They've changed the way obliterators work. They've taken the broken out of the obliterator, which I have abused over and over and over again.
That's because you can't scatter a deep strike to save your life. You land on target like a monster.
I will put a guy an inch away from him. I used to, and just because.
I just had no battle wagons when we played back in the day.
And that's what made
no battle wagons.
Well, that's what because the thing is, there was always a right weapon for the situation.
Yeah.
The new ones are variable weapon damage, AP, and strength.
Yeah.
I had contemplated using the trader book for 7th to run 26 of them in Iron Hands Company, but I also have mental problems. And, it would probably have been hilarious or something.
Yeah.
But they're interesting. Actually, they were very good because because of command points, I was able. One of the basic command points option is reroll a die, not a save, not a to hit, not
a die,
just a die, and I needed that AP to go up.
Yeah.
Remember, and I rolled it, and I got 3 AP.
Yeah.
And that all of a sudden made
suddenly
that.
There's no
that's why that dread popped.
Oh, it was the dread? Oh, okay. All right,
that's why that dread did not exist, because all of a sudden I went from having 1 AP to 3 AP.
Yeah. And now I'm down to a 6-up save.
Don't
you love that most of the time your Marines are getting a save, like at least some chance?
Oh, plasma. Yeah, the fact that, 6-up is better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, unless you're shooting with Primaris Plasma, in which case then you just get set on fire. Because it's -4 AP.
Yeah, but the fact
for most things like Power Fist and stuff, at least you get something.
You shot the Contagion Lord, who's in the Cataphract Terminator armor, 2-up save. I still had a save on top of my Disgusting Resilient, and so that actually allowed me to ignore not many, but 1 or 2 of those hits.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly the save, and that's the fact is that you would just not have that, and that's kind of where we drew. I would want to pull models before we actually remembered, they actually get saves. Like, it happened all the time with the power weapons.
All the time.
I wanted to pull this.
I actually get a save on that. Yeah. So let's talk about the multiple damage. It's one of the 2 things I think are going to be kind of confusing about this edition. One is the first thing is the fact that you're gonna have guys with multiple wounds, sometimes 2 wounds apiece. It's entirely possible that a multiple damage weapon won't kill that guy.
Yeah,
so you'd want to roll those dice 1 at a time when you do your damage.
You want to slow down when you're rolling your damage to see what actually happens.
Yep.
Like when I double tapped heavy plasma from my Hellbrute into your knobs. Knobs 2 wounds. They've always been. Sure enough, the first hit seemed to always be 1 damage.
Yeah.
So then
1 damage.
So the second one has to go to him, whether it's a 1 or a 2. It would always be a 2.
Yep.
But then you throw the other one away.
Technically that knob soaked 3 damage.
Yes.
Because of that. So just keep that in mind when you're rolling your damage, and
it's just slow that pace.
So yeah.
Because we've also been doing this for a while. Oryx versus Chaos Marines.
Yep.
Knobs eating plasma. We've done this.
Yep. There's one rule about the after damage mitigation that we're not sure, that we're still kind of foggy about. Both of us played it this way, which is like the multiple wounds. We rolled the Disgustingly Resilient for each damage. For each damage.
Each wound that you would take, because
Yep.
And you rolled the saves on the number of hits you were hit with.
Yep.
So we saved against one hit that, if we failed, would blossom out to 1 to 3 wounds.
Yep.
Sometimes.
So for each guy, like so guy number 1, he takes 1 damage, roll a disgusting resilient. Then the next guy, he'll take 3 damage, and you roll 3 disgustingly resilient rolls for it. But it still only kills 1 guy.
Yeah.
So that we're not entirely sure if that's 100% accurate or not, but that's the way we played it. It worked fine.
And it makes thematic sense. I mean, the guy gets hit with the las cannon shot. Sure, it could do 3 damage. Yeah. Like, it might hit him and he might lose some skin. Goes through his chest. He's probably got 3 damage.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. The Plague Marines were certainly resilient enough to take it. For some reason, we had one turn where a squad of Shooter boys assaulted them. It wasn't even like on the assault.
That's what
it was. Just suddenly the dice just went super cold.
Yeah, I rolled a lot of 2s. I rolled as many 2s as you could possibly get, and that happens. But we've played before where, I remember fondly that one Plague Marine sitting on an objective, taking 27 shots from a Daka jet, going wog on me, and it just, he passed every save. Yeah. And then once he passed every feel no pain. And it just, sometimes things smile upon you.
That's the best, though. Those are the great moments. And always remember.
Yeah, but it's like, you have 2 wounds models, like, and everything works out. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, we all have our luck. I mean, we're throwing grenades, having fun.
Yeah, we did. We threw a few grenades today.
I mean, you threw a grenade at a fed blight drone's face as it was charging you, and you somehow got that off for
did I do 2 damage?
2 wounds. Yeah, throwing a crack grenade as a Hail Mary, as a panic shot, as an Overwatch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just luck, but it feels so good.
Yeah, that was a fun moment with that. That was one of those lieutenants. You shot him. He lived.
He survived. And
you assaulted him. He Overwatched and did. I did more damage to you in Overwatch than you did to me in shooting.
In shooting and assault, yes.
Dumb.
It really didn't help that and then in the way the vehicle's damage drops. That's cool. Well, like, I took your truck. You came. I knew you had a truck and a Death Dread that I wanted to stop.
Yep. I mean the battle wagon.
The battle wagon, sorry. Yep. The battle wagon with the Death Roller doing a guaranteed 6 hits at full health. Mm-hmm. I knew that truck coming through could really mess my units up. Mm-hmm. I wanted to take it down to the point where it got stepped down in power.
Yeah.
And I did. And then I switched over to the Death Dread and got lucky and wiped him out.
Yeah, no, that's so fun. Like,
I was hoping
so much sense. Like, you can see it in your mind's eye, right? As it comes charging towards you, you're just blowing chunks off the battle wagon as it goes, and it's like the engine starts smoking and everything as it starts to degrade. It's a perfect system.
I mean, my traditional way of handling that would have been to deep strike the Oblitators directly behind him and make it disappear round 1.
Yeah.
And then the Oblitators die, and I just, whatever. It was a good sacrifice. That unit's not coming towards me. This way, it came towards me, but it wasn't as terrifying.
Yeah.
The truck itself wasn't going to murder me.
Yeah.
And it slowed you down, and it made you have to rethink. And I feel like I got a good use out of it. And then getting the Dread off was just was icing on the cake there.
Yep. Yeah. I feel it's a little more fun this way. Instead of having, I mean, the armor facings were interesting, but I don't think they made complete sense from a narrative perspective. I think this is more fun, the way we do it right now.
Yeah, I have to figure. I mean, come on. Every time you have to ask me where the front of my Helldrake was,
and it made it hard to do customizations too.
Yeah, I mean, how many? Yeah, especially with
I've got 6 battle wagons, and I had to carry around a template for him so that.
Yeah.
People could get the right. Yeah, it was kind of not fun. So this is a way more fun way to do it. The second thing that's a little confusing is the way movement works in Assault, particularly in the pylons and in the consolidates. From the way we read the rules. The restrictions for being within 1 inch of a model are very specific to the movement phase.
It's like the first line
and
in the
charge
phase.
and the charge, and when you make a charge,
which is part of the movement phase. Like yeah.
So like whenever from what we can tell, when you do your pile in, you move towards the closest enemy model, which sometimes is not the models you assaulted. Same thing when you pile in. Same thing when you consolidate. Sometimes when you consolidate, you have to go towards the closest model, the closest enemy model, and sometimes that's not the unit you assaulted. Sometimes you wipe out that unit. Like what I did, I assaulted your Rhino, killed it. The guys got out, and then I just consolidated into the guys that came out of the Rhino.
And I see it. It actually makes sense. Now he couldn't attack me, so that's fine.
And in fact, you attacked back.
No, what I literally did. No, I backed up. Remember that's when I did a retreat because I had managed to. I had backed off.
You know, we did that wrong though. You actually could have made the choice to attack with those guys on that assault phase because they were a unit engaged in close combat. So you could have actually attacked with them.
But when you consolidate, it's at the end of. Consolidation occurs at the end of the melee of that
unit's attacks.
Is it done on unit or is it done in the phase?
By the unit.
Okay, I was thinking it was by the phase.
Yeah, it's by the unit. So you could have actually attacked with those guys that turn.
You know what? I could have had a couple more power fist swings in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and that might.
But that's a live and learn situation.
Yeah, and I'm super keen on this.
I just love that because it's not like I think it used to be that you could just get your full movement, but 3 inches is good. If that's the tactical thing where you can set it up ahead of time, and it's a tactical decision.
With your knobs attacking my Dread and my Warpsmith, I kept the Lord to the point where he was fighting other guys, and I cleared that path out. And he wasn't. Couldn't get him engaged. Mm-hmm. So I could have chosen to take him there because I wanted to get the charge in and deny you any chance of hitting me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Lord had a tendency to roll a bunch of 1s and 2s.
Yeah, and then at that point, I was so disgusted with him, I forgot about forgetting about the units.
He affects himself, right?
He affects his own. The auras affects. Maybe not all of them. I haven't.
It says unless it says otherwise.
Yes. So
auras affect the person who gives it out,
which makes sense
as long as they have the matching
name
keywords. Yeah. Which that's great. I'm glad that they put that right in the rules because sometimes it's a little confusing.
So,
Age of Sigmar, it's confusing.
Honestly, with that, I guess if you think about it, that pretty much that's what he's those reroll ones. Isn't that what Mastercrafts it was or something? Isn't that like that was like reroll all? That's
Hatred.
Well, Hatred was you were Oryx, not Imperium. I rolled plenty of 6s. And I didn't get to choose the exploding.
You get to explode
the hatred of the
I would never I could never remember what the difference between hatred and a favorite enemy was ever. I'm glad they have. It's so helpful to have the rules right on the sheets.
It's one of the reasons I liked other games like Malifaux where the guys were kind of precise, but I had the card and I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah, and in this, I can see myself wanting to print them out. Like photocopy them as they are on a sheet, so I don't have to flip through the book.
The book has got a weird layout because there's so many models in the book.
Yeah, you can tell this is a stopgap. This is not the permanent solution. I'm glad they did it. No one wants to buy 20 books. It's good that they only put out a few. And you can buy just the ones you need.
And I feel super comfortable about just picking up my Chaos, and I'm probably going to get the Imperium down the road because there's currently no way for me to get the IG to work with my Marines, but that's it. I'm sure someone... Adam,
Forge World will put out a book.
You won't care if I run them with them.
No. I don't care at all.
Most of the people we play with won't mind.
That's the whole narrative gaming thing.
It's not going to be for tournament play. It's going to be for, you know what, the fact that I can take a detachment of Leman Russes as just rolling thunder coming in, and it makes me want to paint things again.
Yep.
The fact is, I'm like, I want to paint Hellbrutes. I want to paint all the Hellbrutes.
Yeah, it's 40K now. In my opinion, is very much, I guess. The old rule of improv, the yes and, always yes and, never. It's you can if you want to do it, there's a way to do it.
We played boring armies. We played the 2 HQ, 3 troop, and then up to 3 or 4 of all the other one option. I could have literally just run Hellbrutes.
Yeah, you
I have enough where
Yep.
but they have an option for that. I could have had a bunch of warp zones and would have been viable. Probably not, but would it have been funny?
It would have been.
It would have been
really
interesting.
Cool, yeah.
And
and I have the same thing. Like where I'm thinking, you love your Hellbrutes. I was actually thinking. I'm looking at the Big Mech with the shock attack gun. The shock attack gun is so great now. Like, they took a lot of the negatives. Like, the Hellbrute and the shock attack gun are great examples. They were fun things, but they sometimes left a bad taste in
I
my
had
mouth.
3 Hellbrutes. I remember playing in 6th edition. Stop and turn in because they went crazy and attacked the closest model. They literally turned and shot each other in like this weird Mexican standoff all by themselves, and it was amazing, but also a complete waste of my time because I'm putting points into something, and now they're
crazy, but a different crazy.
They have a chance that they flip out and attack again.
Yeah,
a small 1 in 6, but
yeah. And if I'm playing a narrative game and I want my shock attack gun to do something insane, I talk to my opponent and I'm like, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if my shock attack gun teleported me into your guys?" Yeah, let's do that. You can freaking do that if you want to, but it doesn't have to be in the rules.
So I've been thinking about, especially because these command points of what can you do with command points. I hated detachments and the crazy rules they allowed you to get for free. Mm-hmm. I mean, put them at. I mean, if let's say if you take a certain amount of Hellbrutes in a certain if you take 3 Hellbrutes, you can get this stratagem.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could spend on a turn. Mm-hmm. They get a chance to have their crazy on a 4-up.
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee. Maybe make it a point or 2.
Right.
But then it's something that you're using your resources for.
Yeah.
And it's not here's a bunch of free drop pods
free crap. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't feel like I'm getting something. But because I realized those command points are awesome. Like
they are the flavor in your arm. They can potentially be the flavor in so many armies and missions. Like it's not just the armies, but in the future when we start buying these campaign books.
Oh, you took over.
They're gonna have so many of these stratagems to go along with each of these missions in these campaign books. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, like when you took over, when the assault, there's a one for interrupting the charge.
Yeah,
charge is a real good thing. When you're playing against orcs, they can happen to charge a lot of units in one turn. Mm-hmm. Including their vehicles now, which is kind of awesome. The fact is you just run up and hit a guy with a car.
Dude, I drove up, got out of my car,
shot
you with my car, shot you, hit you with my car and my boys. Then I said, you know what? Screw this. Jumped out, got back in the car, and drove away.
Yeah, it's a complete.
So
it was an amazingly valid strategy, but I was able to interrupt your orcs and reduce those numbers.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I think maybe if I got 3 or 4 wounds, stopping 3 or 4 orcs from attacking you, that's 9 to 12 attacks depending on your orc.
Yep.
Because they're all terrible, and even your boys were getting 3 attacks.
Yeah, boys got way better. So I looked in the book and I saw boys were still 6 points in match to play, and I'm like, ugh. Boys are still 6 points. Well, I love them. I'm taking them anyways. It's just to see what they're like. And then as I'm playing, I start noticing. We got into close combat. I'm like, okay, let's see. 4 to hit, right? No, it's 3 to hit. Boys are 3 to hit. Boys have a weapon skill of 3+. Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right, I'm rolling against this rhino, which is hilarious. I probably need 6s to hit for strength. Base. Wow!
Well, you could see they just rolled Furious Charge and all the little into the character. They baked it in.
Yep.
And that's kind of cool. Like, you made a character and they weren't broken. I mean, they still had no armor saves.
Oh, yeah, no.
The weapon choices were kind of cool. Like, they were, Choppa giving you extra attack.
Yeah, that was really fun.
A lot of
fun. 3 attacks, I'll take that. And, it's less attacks than before, but remember, everyone, this is a whole new game. So don't look at don't compare things to the past edition. Compare things to the other things in this game as it is now. And Boys with 3 attacks is really freaking good.
I mean, a Chaos Lord with less than 6 is nuts, you know.
Yeah.
The fact is, your War Boss had 4.
Yeah.
You know, I mean...
But each claw does D3. If you're going against something big.
It changes the whole thought process.
There's a whole dynamic to it. It's really great.
And, the fact is that Melee, that I wanted to push guys into Melee because I ran in and get that hit and then stopped his boys from moving further. And then I pulled back when some of my other shooting guys who were injured got backed up and had a chance to shoot. Like,
the pulling back, like the falling back mechanic is excellent. I think there was a tendency to hide in close combat in 6th and 7th edition. Like people would straight up hide in close combat to avoid getting shot, and I think that was a, you know, I think that this is a great way to mitigate that. And not only that, close combat is very strange now, where you could find yourself more than 3 inches away from someone who chooses not to pile in, because it is a choice. You may pile in. So if you find yourself in that situation, you can say, well, maybe I won't pile in.
And your opponent might not want to pile it either, because he might have a plasma gun.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, I'll stay out of close combat. And so if you're not within 1 inch of somebody, you're not in close combat. You're free to move around all you want after that.
I mean, there may be a reason. I might be scared. Something might be frightening. But
so it's really interesting. Close combat's very interesting. But one thing, you know, I want to close with one rule that we found to be very hilarious, and that is vehicle explosions.
Oh God!
Holy moly!
Well, it goes back to what they call the mortal wound, and how. I mean, vehicles blowing up. As a Marine player, I didn't care. Nobody cares. It doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah. Orc players, however.
Orc players always been worried, but it's still.
Okay. It's on a 6 for a lot of these vehicles. If you roll a 6, the vehicle explodes. Everything within 6 inches takes mortal wounds. The battle wagon was D6 mortal wounds.
D6 mortal wounds from a battle wagen, which I used to blow up. I used to blow up and not mind at all and just walk away. Roll a 4-up save. It's good.
It did wounds to every. It only did 1 wound to my knobs, but it literally vaporized your
my sorcerer.
Your sorcerer.
I mean, a 4-wound model who.
I rolled a 6, didn't I, on the wounds?
Yeah, it was like, well, that guy. I mean, the best part about it is he was doing work. Mm-hmm. He was earning his keep. He was.
That sorcerer was rocking out.
Every time he cast a power near a person within 7 inches, they took a mortal wound. Which, as the mortal wounds are really interesting as a way to push damage on things. And he just evaporated. I'm like, well, I'm in Marine armor.
The engine block exploded out the front of the truck and just crushed him.
You did 4 wounds to my obliterators.
Yep,
Luckily, they're 3-wound models, and the wounds still ate through a unit. You know, 2-up save with 5-up invul doesn't matter. It's a mortar wound.
My Big Mac got messed up pretty bad.
Your Big Mac got hit pretty hard. But you're like, trucks blowing up matter. And then when you popped my Rhino, and I couldn't, and then I realized, oh, it's not you take wounds on the inside if you roll a 1. It's the models are slain. Mm-hmm. Models. Mm-hmm. I could put a model that has 5 wounds inside a Rhino, and forget about it. If you pop that Rhino, there's a 1 in 6 chance he is just slain. Oh, same with plasma. That whole model's evaporating. It's kind of great. No one's 100% safe, even with a lot of wounds in some situations.
Right. I think the orc stuff just blows up more. The Storm Surge only explodes for D6 mortal wounds. I wonder what the Stampa does. Stampa... Oh, jeez. everything within 2d6 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds when the stop explodes.
Well, I bet you if you look, it's probably all the super heavies probably have.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. I didn't know. I looked at the Eldar, the Wraith Knight. It's he says it collapses, not explodes. So he does a localized, smaller blast probably.
Yeah, like he just falls on people.
He probably does mortal wounds, but within a smaller area.
Yeah,
and it's cool. Like it certainly changed the course of that game. That sorcerer was giving me prescience and just giving me a bunch of mortal wounds out there. Yep. And all of a sudden he disappeared halfway through the game because I thought I was doing a good job by blowing up a vehicle.
I think it'll definitely make me think twice about my... I'm not going to think twice about destroying vehicles, but I'm going to think twice about my positioning when
How many times have you surrounded a vehicle and just ripped it apart with claws?
Oh yeah, all the time.
How many now? Because it's on units and characters are separate units.
Yeah, that's a dangerous terrifying. Proposition.
A squad of boys can eat 6 wounds. You might have another 24 left.
War Boss, however,
yeah.
So that's a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm looking forward to playing more narrative games. I'm looking forward to playing with you in the future. I hope we can do this again sometime, except actually play through a campaign.
Well, you know, it gives me is a clean slate to start from. Mm-hmm. Seeing what the Primaris Marines get and. Because, like I said, those guys have no options. They're just what the models are in the books.
You know they'll come up with more, though.
But I'm saying, like, I can't wait to see where that goes because I like it. It's again, I made fun of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought 30 inches was ridiculous for plasma. I still do, but they're expensive and
that unit is.
But things weren't unmanageable.
Yeah, it's
plasma's not. Well, the fact that plasma's not the worst, even a 4-up. I mean,
2 of my guys burned to death in one round. Though. Yeah, remember that? That was great.
But I'm also gonna. But again, if you had more command points, because you unfortunately were command point light.
Yeah, I was.
You could have re-rolled those, especially playing narrative. It says you can spend.
Yeah, you could just do.
But on narrative is like they say the rule is you could use as many stratagems as you want.
And in narrative, I don't see a problem with that.
No. Well, first off, I don't. If I was playing again, I don't know if I'll ever get into the tournament mindset. Really, I go to tournaments. I enjoy it I like hanging out with these people. Yeah. And especially showing off that army. I was proud of it when I took mine to gym.
Yeah, you should be.
You know, it's fun. But I definitely can't wait to see where this goes because things are open. Like there's room to grow.
Yep.
And everybody has a base that seems pretty solid. Orcs are an interesting thing. You got up in my grill.
Oh yeah.
You haven't been able to do that in a long time.
No.
Surprisingly, we didn't even talk about leadership, and how that really wasn't a major factor. Except the one time you thought it might, you chose to spend your strategy, your command points, to negate it. Yep. And that's great because you managed to say, I kind of really need this.
Yeah.
And this is what my resource. That's what that makes that's a valuable resource.
It is.
That kept those guys there.
Yep, and it's always like with a lot of the orcs and a lot of the time with other armies too. You have that one round where you just take a load of casualties, and it's like, well, I have done a lot of damage to the enemy, but they have messed me up this turn. I'm going to use my stratagem this turn, and it probably won't be as big a factor next turn because we're both depleted, you know?
Yeah, and what it did is like it kept that battle tight for 2 turns of just until I brought a whole nother squad in to shoot at him until I stepped away and freed myself up to hit him with guns and recharge you to bring that down.
Yeah, I wouldn't say morale is useless, but
but I'm saying it wasn't as big. It seemed scarier.
Yeah.
It looked like this was gonna when Marines can run off the field. You're like, there's the sky's falling, cats and dogs living together,
mass hysteria.
Exactly, but. I would have had to kill 3 of one of your squads to even make them really risk it, and then they get a reroll. As a Chaos Marine, I never was 100. I was never really close, and then I actually hadn't managed because of the burning zone. I was able to take a Warlord trait that gave my guy a bubble of everybody within 7 inches past leaderships.
Yep.
Were immune to his leadership. Were immune to leadership checks because we were crazy people hanging out in a meteor storm or flying planet debris.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't mention that the narrative mission had a special warlord trait you were allowed to take if you wanted.
And I did, and I never had to even worry when I was losing guys. It
opens up so many possibilities for building narrative missions, which we do on this podcast a lot. We talk a lot about building your own narrative missions and stuff
like I said,
like just the new. Add stratagems. Add a special warlord trait people can use. You know, add these special Warzone special effects. I mean, the sky's the limit, you guys. We're running long, so I'm gonna cut it off here. But Pat, thank you so much for doing this with me. You spent 3 days basically listening to me kvetch about, oh my god, the models aren't here yet.
Yeah, but you spent a whole day playing. You also like I've been so down on your favorite game. And I have been. I mean, I will admit I have been, and I've been down on GW's.
If you're not enjoying things, it's fine.
But the thing is, and then I've been down on a lot of it, and they seem to be going someplace new now. Let's see, 2-3 Codex is in. Mm-hmm. I hope it's Chaos or Death Guard first, but that's because
I want to see a beautiful Death Guard Codex.
I really wish I wish I knew more Tyranny players. I can't wait to see if we can get if orcs can get up close and you can have melee orcs. I'm not a great player, but I'm pretty good at killing a bunch of orcs. But if we can get if Tyranids can do it, and I want to see Dark Eldar, things that you don't see often come back in this. Instead of just seeing Eldar or Marines or look, 3 Imperial Knights, because that's fun.
Riptides.
All
the Riptides.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I love Mecha as much as the next guy. I just don't want to only see Mecha.
Yeah, I think we're all sick of it, and I think that this edition is gonna be the ointment, the cure for that. Well, thanks again, Pat. I really appreciate it, buddy. Maybe we'll have you on again sometimes.
The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog mastersoftheforge.com.